Well, let's get reaction now from Major Glenn Ignazio, a retired U.S. Air Force Special Operations Commander and military analyst. Great to see you again. Thanks so much for being here. 90% progress on this peace plan sounds promising, but that remaining 10% is not going to be easy to solve. Are you hopeful for peace in the new year?
Hi, great to see you, Jessica. Well, I'd love to have the peace. And really, one of the things that I see is this great communication from President Zelensky with President Trump. The one thing we don't see that much is the communication with President Putin and his group. So I believe that, Ukraine is looking and, of course, wants this peace. I mean, they are losing so many people. In fact, that's their weakness, is not having as many troops. The hard part is, again, these concessions for territory that will always be the case. In fact, he's proposing a referendum for the Ukraine people. But the security concessions to back up Ukraine for the future, I think that's really come together, and that's one of the main points that Ukraine needs to have.
Zelensky's offering to pull troops out of the eastern Donbas region, but only if Russia also pulls back troops. Do you think Putin would agree to anything other than full control? And even if so, can we trust him?
Well, the trust is definitely one of the things that's not there, right? So if the Ukraine pulls troops, will Russia then rush forward into that area? I mean, that's really one of the things. So who's going to do it first, right? But as far as we've always heard from Putin, now, one of the things he said is, hey, I'm willing to give away the northern areas or some areas, which is Kharkiv and the Sumy region. That's very far north. But he wants the entire Donbas region, which always goes down to the southeast and south to Kherson. And that's one of the things that they occupy in some areas they don't occupy, that he absolutely wants. So a DMZ, maybe if it's tiny, like something that really defines that line. But other than that, he controls the situation, like it or not. And that's the question that I think Putin is basically stuck on, where he does really want to move away from this.
Another issue, of course, is the management of that nuclear power plant, the largest in Europe that Russia seized back in 2022. But Kyiv says that it needs that plant for post-war reconstruction. What are the chances that Putin would actually give that up?
That's a great question. I don't think he's really going to. Zaporizhia, which is where that is one of the largest plants, he's open to sort of managing that with the United States. But for him to give that up is really questionable, because it gives him a constraint over Ukraine. And then now, if you think about way in the past, we had those agreements with minerals and so forth with Ukraine. Those minings need a lot of power. So he gets control within Ukraine still for that point. But that's why rest of the country of Ukraine, they've been decimated with their energy sector. And that's really going to be a tough thing. So another item, and that would be in the area that Russia wants to control. So he still would have influence in Ukraine in some ways.
President Trump saying today that Zelensky, quote, doesn't have anything until I approve it. But Putin still holds a lot of cards. So how do you feel about this?
Well, one of the things Zelensky's doing, and I think he's pretty smart about this, is that with the EU and the United States giving these security concessions, he actually wants Congress to also approve it. And the reason for that is if President Trump leaves office, of course, in the future, that this will carry on from president to president. So that's one thing. The other thing is that Trump controlling a majority of this decision, we started seeing the EU and others get involved with this negotiation. So there is a little bit of turmoil there. But really, again, Zelensky will put a lot of these property areas or these controlled areas up to a referendum for the Ukrainian people to decide. So Trump may have influence from an ego standpoint and politically influenced, but really it still comes down to the Ukrainian people that must make that decision with President Zelensky.
All right, let's hope they can come up with something. Major Glenn Ignazio, great to see you again. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Take care.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.